Hello, everybody. Dr. Dan Miller here, Historical Solutions, LLC. Welcome to Pro Football in America 250, Week 19. It's the Wildcard Playoff Round that we just completed. I'm talking to you today, hanging out with you today on Tuesday after we've just wrapped up that final game last night in Pittsburgh. Probably wrapped up to Aaron Rodgers' career as an NFL quarterback. Kind of sad in that regard. And to say goodbye to a fabulous weekend of games and slate of games today. So say hello to my buddy over my right shoulder. That's Shelby, very valuable team member at World Headquarters of Historical Solutions here. So thanks for hanging out here at Week 19. The wildcard weekend will be informal, will be fast-paced, and will be as brief as I can be in sharing what I think are some pretty important things for today as far as that's concerned for owners, coaches, players, and fans all alike. So I've got a kind of a two-part summation, real quick, of this past round of wildcard games. Number one, shocking wins. The wins, they were record-setting, right? I mean, we're talking about never before such an amount of last-minute, last-drive, one-score kind of games in the wildcard round. Just shocking wins and a whole lot of fun to watch as a fan, as I am, and I suspect you are too. So that's number one, shocking wins, paired up with bitter ends. There was a lot of sudden terminations of seasons this past weekend. There always is, right, in the terms of the playoffs, but this felt a little different. We had some shocking wins that were paired up with bitter ends in Los Angeles with the Chargers and kind of Justin Herbert's difficulties. We had a shocking win paired up with a bitter end, I think probably in Pittsburgh last night, to be perfectly honest about it, in terms of their inability to win a playoff game under Mike Tomlin. Shocking wins paired up with bitter ends, maybe above all in Philadelphia with their difficulties too. And we can go on with, and a little bit, even a little bit, down in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence. Again, a little on the Justin Herbert side of perhaps not rising to the level of expectations and certainly to the level of need that his team had in seeking a win. So shocking wins paired up with bitter ends. Interesting. Now, so what does that say? What does that say when that's true about this past wildcard weekend? I think it says a couple of things. I've written them down here. Number one, it tells you the stakes are super high, super duper high in these games. And number two, it tells you that when you actually play the game, everything is up for grabs. Let me roll that out just a little bit more. Forget the plans, forget the pregame strategies, forget the scripted plays and all those kinds of things. When you actually start the game and go for 4 quarters, everything's up for grabs, right? I mean, anything can happen, anything does happen, and it's all play by play, possession by possession. And what I've just done, I think, is give a little more zest to what has become a cliche in so many post-game press conferences that we hear, certainly that I hear in Indianapolis. Execution. We got to have execution. You know, nobody ever says what that really means. Well, you know what? This past wild card round, we saw what it meant. As I said, every play's important, every possession's important, and the whole thing's up for grabs and can change on a dime. Execution matters the most. Got your plans on one hand, but boy, what you do with that, play to play, possession to possession, makes all the difference in the world when the stakes are so very, very high. I think those are the things that underscore this pairing up of shocking wins and bitter ends. Come on up here, Shel. So that's what we just witnessed this past weekend. Now, what does it mean for head coach George Washington and his Continentals football team that's encircling Boston, encircling the Redcoats, that they've got surrounded inside of Boston. So remember, Washington is the coach. The front office is the Continental Congress in Philadelphia. The ownership is community owned up and down the Atlantic coast by those families who are supporters of the colonial American cause. So, January 13th, 1776. January 13th is the day that I'm shooting this for you. 250 years ago, though, on that January 13th. What's true about head coach George Washington and his teams? They really haven't played the game they're looking to play. They've not fought the British in open battle. They've done some minor skirmishes, some minor clashes, and so on. But in terms of that ultimate game, on the field of battle, it has not occurred. We also know that the battle forces on the American side, the Continental side, that team is half strength. They'd wanted it to be 20,000. It's 10,000 and change in terms of personnel. The number that are actually fit to play is probably half of the 10. So you're looking at around 5,000, give or take. So it's 1/4 of what the hoped for strength would be. So that's really the reason, too, why they've purposely avoided playing the game, because they know they'd lose at this point in time. So what can you really say after 5 or 6 months of having the team in existence? Head coach George Washington at the helm. What can you really even say? There's really only one thing you can say that's positive, ultimately positive, and that is we're still here. We still exist. And they still can't, they're still holed up in that town over there. We got them surrounded. And they haven't come out to do anything to us. We still exist. That's a victory. Aside from that, we can't point to any victories. But we're still here. You know, I want you to hold on to that word execution that we talked about from the NFL Wildcard Weekend. Hold on to that word, because we're coming to it again. So, George Washington is about to realize something, and that is that not every resource is measurable. You know, he's tried to overhaul the entire team, and he's done it, but there's still half strength of the recruitment total. There's still a quarter strength of the actual total. But they've overhauled it. They've reformed it into a kind of a new team. He called it a new army. But he's about to learn, the head coach, that not every resource can be measured. Now, if you think about football, the NFL, a lot of resources can be measured. And we all know ad nauseum about the measurements. How fast is your 40 time? How many squats can you do? How much weight can you squat? And on and on. How what's the ball speed in terms of the passing? What's the ball distance in terms of how long you can throw? We can go on and on with the things that are measurable. And we know that the teams depend on those measurables being done over and over and over again on the field. But then there's some things that can't be measured. The head coaching job that Kyle Shanahan is doing at San Francisco, you can't measure that. He's accomplished something with that team that is understrengthed, much like Washington's. He's accomplished something with that team because of things that you can't measure. Josh Allen at Buffalo, the quarterback. Yeah, he's got all the measurables: height, weight, ball speed, ball distance. But there's something about him you can't measure in terms of what he's able to do on the field. So Washington's about to learn that too. You know, he's been talking about our spirit and our cause and all those kinds of things, and he's meant it. Of course, we can't measure it. But 3 days ago, his time, 3 days ago, there was a booklet that was printed and sent onto the streets of Philadelphia and the bookshops of Philadelphia. The guy who wrote the book was Thomas Paine. The book itself, booklet, as I said, is 46 pages long. In that booklet, Thomas Paine uses words and images and just turns of expression to basically share one idea, and that is we don't need any damn kings. And he's put it in such a way, he didn't create the idea, but he's put it in such a way that it feels fresh, it feels powerful, and it feels like a source of energy and clarity that nobody's really had before in all of this. And certainly since the team came together 6, 7, 8 months ago, nobody's phrased it quite like that. And maybe certain things had to happen along with the phrasing coming out now in January. Whatever is true about that, there's suddenly going to be. By the way, they did 1,000 print run, 1,000 copies of this 46 pages were cranked out. And these things are going to start flying off the shelves of Philadelphia, flying in carriages and horseback and all the rest, being shipped up to outside of Boston and New York and wherever else. On top of that, there's going to be a lot of people start to read it out loud to groups that maybe can't read as well or can't read at all. So 1,000 becomes 5,000, becomes 10,000, ultimately becomes, I think, 150,000. I believe, per capita, it's the largest selling book in American history after the Bible. And again, we're not talking about some big new idea. We're talking about an existing idea, though, that's put in a big new way. We don't need any damn king. That catches fire. And so we're back to our things that can't be measured, right? And so the execution that is so critical to the success that we just saw for some of the teams this past wildcard weekend, that execution depends a lot of times on things that can't be measured. Washington's going to see that too. Around the campfire, there's a new kind of energy. In the tents, there's a new kind of zeal. Out in the taverns and on the corners and in the farms and the barnyards and all the rest, there's just a new kind of commitment and a willingness to put up with stuff that maybe didn't exist 96 hours ago. Now, do all the problems of Washington suddenly go away? No, they don't. But there's an unmeasurable resource that's been handed to him that he'll begin to feel the power of in his Continental team. We've got a long way to go before we have a big victory that we're looking for. But in terms of us still being here, which is his definition of victory at this point, that just got a huge boost with Thomas Paine and the 46-page booklet called Common Sense. So for all you owners, coaches, players, and fans, I leave you with this. You got to find the people who have the unmeasurables. You got to find those people who can get the unmeasurables. And with them in your locker room, with them on the sideline, with them on the field, you'll be able to do things play after play, possession after possession, on weekends like the one we just saw. I'm Dr. Dan Miller, Historical Solutions, LLC. I'll see you next time for what will it be, Week 20, the division round. See you then.